Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's the night of October 3rd, 2019, and we're going to do a nightcap. And the first thing you'll notice is the picture isn't real good. The lighting's a little odd. I look a little red. Let me tell you about the ordeal I went through to get this going tonight. Obviously, I'm still out and about, and I thought that, with the idea of, nightcap, I'd have a dark background. Oh, that was the wrong thing to do with this camera. This, I can see I'm gonna have to upgrade my live streaming camera because it has no adjustments for exposure or any of that. So it just does what it does, and so it's taken me a while to get to the point where I don't look like, I've got a sunburn, and I still do to some extent. Plus the picture is a little fuzzy, but most of that's because the lighting is low in here. And of course the internet connection, as usual, is probably not as good as it should be. Hopefully the sound will carry through if nothing else does. So I'm going to check and see how things are looking here. And it looks like we're going to get through. Again, hello everyone as you come in. And I think I'm going to stay on this screen that I've got there for now and take a little sip of water. This is from one of my daughters. Isn't that nice? Best dad ever. So try to wet the whistle a little bit and get ready to go here. Yes, things have really been progressing. When I put up that video the other day about Trump saying, I finally figured out that it's not just about impeachment, if at all. It's about a coup against not just me, but against the American people. And how long have we been saying that? And I looked at some of the comments from that video, and a lot of people were saying, if he's that dumb, it's taken him this long, what's his problem? And then others said, he's known about it from the start, and he's been playing, the Sun Tzu thing of pretending like he's weak and all. No, I know he's aware of Sun Tzu, but that's not really what happened here. But that's okay. All of us who have our different theories about, what Trump's about and what he isn't about and all of that, I think pretty much we're all on the same side. The side is that we want our liberties. We want our Bill of Rights. We want our Constitution. We want our government to be held accountable when it does something wrong. And it does a lot wrong, as we all know. So at any rate, whether Trump is, and I do know that, he put Barr in, and then of course Barr brought Durham in. I don't talk much about Huber in Utah. You know how I feel about that. At least if you've been with me for a long time, you should. By the way, how's the sound? Is my microphone making a lot of noise? Let's go there. Mic upgrade. Oh, really? No, it's just I think I finally found the setting. Let's hope so. We'll see. It really depends on where I am. Sometimes I'm in places where there's a little bit of an echo, and like this place, it's really well insulated and padded. So no, it's not a padded cell. No. It's not a padded cell. Liza Jean Williams thinking the same thing. Let's laugh. Okay, well, I'm glad the sound's good. So getting back to the topic at hand, I've been watching things the last few days, as I'm sure you all have, and Trump has really, he's really trolled the media. He's really got them to start covering like the China thing and how the Bidens were there because I didn't. This isn't my own idea. I've heard some other commentators, a black conservative patriot and Dan Bongino in particular, talking about this, and maybe some others. I've spent a good portion of the day not being able to check these things, but I went through it pretty quick. And so I'm probably not going to tell you guys, you folks, anything that you don't already know, with the exception of a couple, and at least my take on them. But basically, as you can see, Trump is moving. now, finally, and that's good. And a lot of people would say, well, I read a thing on the live stream the other day where a person said that, well, you don't understand how enormous this project is, and why it's taking so long because of the enormity of it. No, I really do understand that. But one of the things you do when you seize the initiative is you take out some of the pawns right now. And none of that has happened. And so what it sent to these deep staters, the intelligence community, and certainly the leftists in our government and Congress, etc., is that Trump really wasn't going to be able to act. And apparently, in the last few weeks with this push with this supposed whistleblower, and we all know about Adam Schiff. I've talked about him before, and his connections with Ed Buck and the Standard Hotel. I was talking about that 2 years ago. As a matter of fact, when that helicopter crash occurred with the manager in it from the Standard Hotel, all of that, and just so you know, I had some investigative operations. I'll just put it that way. Back about 10 years ago, not quite that, a little less than that, where I was looking into a lot of this type of thing that was going on there, and some of the names that have been popping up in the media are the names that I had actually been checking on this other thing that I was concerned with. So at any rate, it's interesting to see how things are going. I think Trump finally did realize, though, that these people, he can't shake hands with them, and that it really is serious. Barr, even though he's definitely, he's over there in Italy. I said the other night, well, this Russian thing, JW, the Judicial Watch people, all they need for that is there, with the exception probably of the actual contacts with these different ICs and prime ministers, etc., in these Five Eyes countries and their allies, like Italy, for instance, and it probably is a good thing. I understand from somebody, who was that? I get so much information I can't remember where I got it, but this individual is reporting, said he believes that that Durham and Barr are listening to the taped statement of Professor Mifsud, who of course is a CIA asset. He's not a Russian asset. I think a lot of us have known that for a long time. Still, there's no indication that Mifsud is alive, or he might still be in hiding, but apparently there's this recording, this affidavit, this statement that he made under oath, I guess. I'm not sure. But at any rate, the point is that that's making a lot of the deep state people, the leftist Democrats in Congress that have been pushing the Chinese model for so long, and that includes rhinos too, as we all know. And as someone pointed out today, again, it wasn't my idea, but we've talked about it before. These people have been taking bribes and payments from the Chinese for a long time, and through different methods, sometimes through Mexico, sometimes through, different places, sometimes directly, because, of course, China was supposed to be the big model for the New World Order as far as the way the government was doing, as far as government is concerned, and then they were going to use Islam basically as the model for the New World Order religion. It would be different, but it would be similar. The idea is that there's, see, my lights are falling down. Hopefully that didn't change things too much. Let's take a look and see here. Yeah, that's not so bad. But maybe, it'll be okay where it is. So we'll just keep going. No, it isn't. It's good. I'm going to have to duck out of the picture here for a minute. Okay. Sorry about that. Like I say, you have to make do with things sometimes when you're traveling, and this is one of those cases. So I see my tag is sticking up in the back of my shirt. That was another thing that happened tonight. I thought I was going to wear a black shirt against the black background. It looked like a head floating. in space, which is a lot like my, the Potter suppositor video that I did some time ago, and I use it as a break video every once in a while. It's kind of like that. So that didn't work. So then I had to get this one on, so there was some contrast there, but it also causes some of the problem with the color in the picture. Anyway, so as we know, these investigations are continuing. There's still this talk that McCabe's already been indicted, and like I said, it doesn't really matter to me whether he has been or not. What matters is I want to see him in bracelets, and of course I mean that by handcuffs, and all these other guys. So this entire thing on the Russian deal, I think after I thought about it, was a good idea, of course, and Trump was actually the one, or actually I guess it was Barr who told Trump, according to the stories, that if he would introduce them to these different foreign leaders so that they could go and do their work, like in Italy. And good idea. And of course, the Democrats and the deep state and the intelligence community, they're all tied together. The Department of State, aspects of the Department of Justice, certainly the FBI, all these people that have crafted this thing and have been seeking to turn us into a leftist Marxist government, are, I don't want to say panicking, they're still very much in control, but they're realizing now that they have some exposure. Biden's big mouth has helped quite a bit, and like I was saying, Trump has managed to bring the Chinese connection and the Ukraine connection up because of Biden's big mouth, and because they want to argue with him about the Chinese and Ukraine connections, they're going to, and Trump knew that, so now they're talking about it. So at least the people in the nation are going, what do you mean China? What do you mean Ukraine? So all those things are good. I've heard some arguments back and forth, of course, on the impeachment thing, whether it's really going to happen or what. It doesn't matter. What these things are their attacks. They're multi-pronged attacks to try to keep the president and those loyal to him off balance. That's all these things are. And of course, to stoke the fires of opposition in the leftist side of things, including Antifa and all of that. So a couple of things have happened over the last little while. One of them we already knew about, but I had to bring it up because of the circumstances of this. It's just crazy. Pardon me. I even dropped my phone. Didn't know that. So the big reason I wanted to come on tonight was because this really is a dangerous time. Like I have told you and many others, when the going gets rough for the deep state, the intelligence community, the leftist Marxists, those who want to impose a new world order and the Chinese model, all of that they would rather destroy everything than to lose power. And it's really true. Dan Bongino today, if you watched his show, and he said it before, I've quoted him before, he's gone from our republic is in danger to our republic's almost gone to it's almost totally destroyed at this point with the things that the Congress has done, going after the president. This whole thing about, they've totally ruined our diplomatic relations with countries by insisting on seeing the president's diplomatic messages, his phone calls and those things, which are supposed to be privileged and classified. So it's really gone too far. But the idea, under Bush with Cheney, if you remember that, their big thing with the whole deal with the Patriot Act and the Project for a New American Century and the deal with 9/11, forcing us into these wars and these surveillance, intelligence community systems. All of that was to make the president an emperor, really, and his entourage. So we see these back and forth things. Well, now it's going the other way. But both have been bad for a lot of reasons, and I think you all can see that. Too much of a good thing can be bad for you. And of course, too much of a bad thing can kill you. So we've got some problems on both sides, but this is as dangerous, if not more so, because of the restrictions and because what they do to the president, they do to us. Okay, in this situation. And that's, of course, been the whole thing, which was why I was so happy for Trump to come out and say, I finally figured it out. It's a coup not against an impeachment. It's not just a coup. It's a coup against you people. It's a coup against the United States, against the American people. Well, we've heard them pushing Antifa, their leftist Marxist violence across the country. We know that for instance, the two shooters, one in Dayton and the one in El Paso, were both Antifa leftists. The guy in El Paso was not a Trump supporter or supposed white nationalist. And we've seen some other things like that too. Of course, they're going to lie to us. And as I explained in my video, it really doesn't matter. They're stoking the fires with all of these people. They're even trying to stoke it so that we'll act. And of course, we don't want to do that. It's like I said the other night. We don't want to take things into our own hands. We want to make sure, and when all other options are spent, then you might have to consider something. But at this point, no. We want competent authority to stand behind us, okay? And that's really important. So what I saw today really bothered me, and so I'm going to talk about this. I don't know how many other people are, but I wanted to bring it up. There's a very good source that I have. It's not like I don't think this person is in IC or that, but this person surveys the net for interesting information, things, and he sends them to me. And there are very few people that I will open up their tweets from on the DMs. But this is one. He's proven himself over a long period of time, and he sent me this, and I'd show it to you, but I don't think the camera will focus on it. I won't even bother. I'll just tell you what it says. So Donald Trump says in a tweet, and he did this, let's see, I'm not sure when, not too long ago, probably this morning. He says, as the President of the United States, I have an absolute right, perhaps even a duty, which he does, to investigate or have investigated corruption, and that would include asking or suggesting other countries to help us out. Of course, that's exactly that's diplomacy. That's proper. I mean, there's Interpol, for instance, right? Just as an example, or Assange. See the situation with Assange, and of course, it's a backward situation, but Britain's helping us with Assange, and we're helping them with Assange. You see how that works? And again, Trump should protect Assange. I thought it was interesting that, the letter, if you know what I'm talking about, I don't like saying it anymore. And if you wonder if I'm tired, I am. Okay. The letter, at one point, amongst the other mistakes that it made, disinformation is necessary, that thing. In other words, you cover for what you can't prove. Anybody that lies to you, you gotta question for whatever reason. But at any rate, the big thing was that one of the big things was that Assange had been rescued and all that, and this was 2 years ago, and of course that wasn't the case. But at any rate, so I just used Assange as an example of this cooperation. Whether or not it's righteous or moral or even lawful, that's another thing. But when Trump made that tweet, David Rothschild, you should recognize the name, said this: President Trump is a very serious threat to our sovereignty, security, prosperity. He is openly trading our money, access, secrets, policy to foreign governments in exchange for personal favors. He needs to be removed from office as soon as possible. And of course that means by any means. Now, we're getting really close to the time where they realize that he probably will win the 2020 election, as a lot of people have talked about. I'm not telling you anything you already know. They've tried this impeachment thing. They might still do it. There are questions of whether or not that'll happen. All kinds of questions around it. But guaranteed, they're going to start false flags. There's that thing with the Joker movie this weekend, and it's very. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it certainly could. And even if it's not associated with that, these things will start happening. more frequently, as we've seen, okay? And not just here in the United States, but a lot of other places. Look at the situation in Hong Kong, what the government of China is doing to the people in Hong Kong. Just typical tyrannical, authoritarian type stuff. Um, so it's very possible that they'll move on to some sort of other thing. Obviously, they're not sure the 25th Amendment's going to work, so the next thing is assassination. You think they wouldn't do that? Well, this is David Rothschild. And what does he mean? Our sovereignty, security, and prosperity, and our money, access, and secrets. You know what he means? He means the cabal. He doesn't mean the people of the United States. He's talking to the Rothschilds, to the Rockefellers, to the New World Order leaders. That's who he's talking to there. It's just like when Bush said, the Muslims that did this, the Taliban, 9/11. They blame it on Al Qaeda and 9/11 or Taliban and all that, and they say, oh, they hate our freedoms. He wasn't saying your freedoms. He's not talking about the Bill of Rights. He was talking about his freedom that he wants to have to rape the world. I hope you understand that. So he wasn't really talking to us. He was talking to the elites. And the same thing with David Rothschild here. Okay, another one. You remember supposed former CIA agent, deputy, I think. But again, once you're CIA, you always are. Philip Mudd, he's now a commentator on CNN, I believe. It might be MSNBC, but it's one of those traitorous channels. And you remember when he was talking about Trump being in the, with the things that he was doing, and he said, oh yeah, the government's going to kill this guy. Do you remember that? I'm surprised he wasn't arrested by the Secret Service. Maybe, I doubt that they even questioned him. You have to understand what these things are when they're said over the air like that. They're not just comments. That's how they send out orders to their flunkies. Okay, that's how it's done. A good example, and the Pentagon, for some reason, didn't figure this out at first. I'll just tell you the story. You remember Baghdad Bob during the Iraqi War, right? When they invaded Iraq, and the U.S. and the coalition forces were coming in on Baghdad, and Baghdad Bob, who was the information minister, he got out there and he says, "Oh, we're slaughtering the Americans here. We're killing them at the airport. They're dying by the thousands. This stuff." And the people here were all laughing at him, thinking the guy's crazy. And then others were just saying, well, it was just propaganda to his people. No. In the Middle East, they don't think linearly. They don't think in a straight line. They think in a circle. And what he was saying is he was giving orders to his army, okay, on what to do. It was basically an operations order on what to do after the Americans got in there, that they would continue guerrilla fights. That's what they're talking about. Remember, they laid down their weapons out in the field, and they found uniforms and stuff. All those people just went underground. It wasn't Al-Qaeda or those guys that we were fighting. Sorry, we're jumping around a little bit here on the, because I know about the connection being bad. And hopefully it'll come back here in a minute, solid. Let's hope so anyway. That's frustrating. That's one thing that's really so frustrating. So that was the first thing he said that got me. Well, then today, this is what he said about Giuliani, Mayor Giuliani, who of course is working with President Trump. He said this, that his brothers and sisters in the intel community should put a shiv in his back. You know what a shiv is? It's a knife that they make out of anything they can find in prison, anything. A piece of metal, a piece of plastic, a piece of stone, a piece of glass, whatever they can get, and they'll make a shiv. And basically it's a small knife. And so he's basically saying that they need to assassinate Giuliani. Do you see that? This guy's a criminal, and he needs to be arrested. All right? And then if you're not aware of a person by the name of, she goes by Gigi Sims on Twitter. I wanted to read these tweets to her. She's done these long threads showing all the intricacies of the intelligence community and how evil they are and what they've done and all of these things. She's very, very good. The Last Refuge, Technofog, and there are some others. But I wanted to read this one to you because she's just done a fantastic job here, and I liked what she says. Let me quote this to you. 2 tweets, 74 and 75. When Schumer warned, more accurately threatened, when Chuck Schumer threatened President Trump, saying Intel officials have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you, he effectively leaked the biggest Intel secret ever leaked. Do you see that? And then Philip Mudd followed up on it. We're going to kill this guy. We're going to take a shiv to Giuliani. Number 75. Schumer told the world that day, at least in part, who runs your world, and if you threaten their power, they will come for you with the full force of the United States government. Freedom and liberty be damned. And that's true, ladies and gentlemen, which is why I've stood so firm against the IC for so long, and why on my channel it says the intelligence community is our most dangerous domestic enemy. We've let it get out of control. They think they are, and that was their plan, to control the world for the bankers. They really work for the New World Order for the bankers. They don't work for the president. They spy on the president, and they have since at least 1960, 61. Eisenhower warned about it, and Truman got upset that he allowed the CIA to go forward. So anyway, I wanted to bring those things up to show you how dire this situation is. There is a war going on in the government. I've been talking about how that has developed over the years. My first time talking about it was during the series I had on the Boston bombing, as I've mentioned before. And it's I'm afraid that the bad side, despite what Hannity says and some of these other people, most of the IC, most of the FBI is not to be trusted. A lot of the DOJ, a good portion of it, the Department of State, same thing. Those are all actually part, in one way or another, with the intelligence community, and they have not protected us. They have taken advantage of their position for their own power and the power of their masters, and their masters aren't the elected officials of this country. The elected officials of this country are their pawns, are their puppets, are their bribed and extorted lackeys. President Trump, I do believe, is trying to change that, and right now what he has got to do is come full force. I hope Barr and Durham are indeed ready to lower the boom on a few people. They need to take some people out now. I don't mean kill them. They need to collar some people right now. They think that they have these folks nervous now. They need to really shake them up by taking a few of them down. It's kind of like in battle, you know. You can't. Well, you have to take out, you know, the command and control at a minimum, logistics, right? You got to hit them. Without hitting them, they don't think you're serious. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was a police officer. I think I've told this story before. You know, I had been in the Army, MP officer, military police, and a military police officer, a military police duty officer is basically the commanding general. I mean, that's how much authority he has when he's on duty, he or she. And you know, when the MP duty officer walks into a place, I mean, everybody knows they're in deep trouble, right? So I never had to rise to the occasion and use 4-letter words or scream or holler or anything like that. I had an NCO, you know, a patrol supervisor or somebody like that would do it. But when I became a police officer and I tried to use that same thing, reasoning with people, I realized I couldn't do it. So I had this one guy at gunpoint one time, and I was telling him to get down, and cross his legs and put his hands behind his head and all that. And he, what are you talking about? I ain't gonna do that. Finally, I realized I had to use four-letter words. I won't repeat what I said. And he finally said, "Oh, you're really serious? Okay, you'll shoot me if I don't." And I said, "Yeah." And then he finally he dropped his weapon and he did his deal. Well, anyway, so that's what I'm saying. You can't bluff. When you take out your weapon and you point it, you have to be ready to pull the trigger. You have to have already arrived at the point where you've got to pull the trigger if it goes even an inch further. And in this case, Trump has to pull the trigger. He's got to take some people out today. Well, you know what I mean, right away. It's really that critical. So we'll see. I'm really getting tired, as most of you all are. I even heard Maria Bartiromo ask, who was it? Wasn't Meadows? McCarthy. She asked McCarthy. She was really upset. You could tell because of all these things going on. It's really bad when you get an anchor or interviewer like that who you can see visibly upset on live television. She says, when are we going to see these indictments and these arrests? This is ridiculous. How long has this been going to keep going on? And McCarthy said, well, it's coming. It's coming. Well, we've been hearing that for how long? So it's not unruly. It's not incorrect to say, why is it taking so long? Because I realize it's a big task. But by the same token, you need to hit the enemy, okay? Trump, you need to hit him, and you need to hit him hard. Even Soros needs to be collared. Even Soros, and that's a big deal. I realize that. And that may never happen, but I sure hope it does. So anyway, we all know that these things need to occur as quickly as possible. And I'm just hoping that Barr isn't going to come back, like I said here a little while back, and say, well, I think it was just all a big misunderstanding, and we're just going to kind of let it ride. This Ukraine deal. Ukraine really is the soft underbelly of the leftist Marxists. It's not even really China. What happened during the 2016 election and on back, oops, sorry, I hit the mic. Ukraine really is the crux of the matter. And of course, uranium won with Russia and Rosatom. That's a big deal too, because that's what that whole thing about here was about, was trying to save Hillary's investment. So you see, like in that, and with Harry Reid at the Bundy Ranch when they were trying to take that for the Chinese, these people aren't working for us. They're the traitors. They're the domestic terrorists. They're the raiders. They're the pirates. And unfortunately, our law enforcement officers just say, oh, I'm just doing what I'm told. I'm just doing my job. Well, if you were doing your job, you would have done a little bit more investigation and said, wait a minute, we're not going there. And I know good friends who are in the police and in the military who have done that. Good friends of mine. And I've done it myself. And it gets you in trouble, yeah, but you stop the mayhem and the murder, at least for the time being. So I just wanted to talk to you about that tonight. Beware of Mudd, Philip Mudd, ex-CIA commentator, and that's either CNN or MSNBC, one of those. And the fact that he said two and a half, almost 3 years ago, the government's going to kill this guy, talking about President Trump. And then today, or it may have been yesterday, my brothers and sisters in the IC, we need to take a shiv to Giuliani. In other words, stab him to death. These are real operative orders. These are real. This is like in the old days when they go into the newspaper, like I was telling you before. They look at the newspaper and there's an ad in there that's actually an order to tell somebody to do something, and they know where to look on what day, what line, what column, all that. Well, they're doing the same thing, and they're doing the same thing Baghdad Bob did. Order their people to take advantage of the first opportunity to take these people out. They've put out hits on Trump and on Giuliani, and in a minor way, all the rest of us. Maxine Waters, get in their face, don't let them eat in the dining rooms, whatever, all of that. So bad things could still occur, and they probably will. So I hope you're ready and have your stuff Uh, as Matt Bracken says, keep your powder dry. Okay. I'm gonna have to take some melatonin tonight. This stuff is crazy. I mean, I lay, when I finally do lay down, as a lot of you, it just doesn't stop. It goes through my head and through my head and through my head, and I don't know what to do. Well, at nightcap, of course, I like to go to chat, so I'm gonna do that, and it's a little awkward here where I have this computer, but let's see what you all want to talk about. Okay, still no arrests. I agree, Farmer Funk. Candace, yeah, you don't. You're talking to somebody else at Val. Um, yeah, and I agree. The Judicial Watch and what they've done with the FISA and what we already know about all those things, people are saying, well, no, we want to get it all together, right? This is an enormous thing, and we just want. No, no. It's just like with Assange, and I hate to use Assange. I mean, the guy's a victim of this whole thing, okay? But it's a good example because most people know it. They arrested him on like one or two counts, okay? Failing to make to come back, when he did bail and then he didn't show up in court, and some other things. Well, and then the Justice Department charged him with a crime. And then they add on those crimes, but he's already been arrested. They can do the same thing with Comey, McCabe, and everybody else. They can grab him, collar him on the things that they've already obviously got him on, and then they can add more charges later. They don't need to wait. As a matter of fact, waiting is a bad idea because who are they going to get to raid all these people? So I hope you understand what I'm saying there. So it's ridiculous. It's just like I've said, I don't care how enormous the investigation is. There is no excuse for no one having been arrested at this point. There is no excuse. Okay? All right. Oh boy. All smoke and mirrors, Liza Jean. And I'm not saying that it isn't, okay? And I know what you're saying. You've heard me. Liza Jean has been with me for a long time. I appreciate her. I agree, and that's why I've been so frustrated. And is Trump pulling another, dramatic act? As I said in my video the other morning, I sensed something different this time with this tweet about he's realized that there's not just corruption, but this is a coup, and it's a coup against not just him, but against us. I think something's switched on him. I hope that's the case. Patriot Nurse is still very, very much unimpressed, and I can't blame her. If you watch Patriot Nurse, I saw her recent video just today. She's wonderful. She just has a way. She's so good. She can flow really fast, and even though she gets very animated and very, I don't want to say emotional, but she'll definitely get agitated. She can still keep that line of reasoning flowing and pull out history. She talked about Shays' rebellion and about how they're going to come after us in what ways. And she's right. Her rendition today on the history and the political situation was spot on. So go watch that. And Liza Jean, I agree. It could still be. And we're just, while they're wrapping up the 5G surveillance grid and the poisons in the water and the drugs and the spraying in the skies and the drones, we're still waiting for something to happen, and it's just drawing it out, and I am afraid of that. So that's why I say we've got to be ready. In the military, a thing called airland battle was formulated back in the 80s, and airland battle took into account all these different things that could happen at the same time, and not just offensively but defensively. And so we're seeing this multi-pronged attack at all sorts of levels and from all sorts of directions being set up. And unless Trump acts, and it's going to succeed. And I realize the dangers and the numbers and all of that. But the several things that made me nervous, as you know, was when he said, "Well, Clinton are good people," right? When he signed the orders, the executive orders, like on the resource thing. He signed that in December of 2018, I believe it was. So let's see, is that right, or was it, no, 17? And then the voting thing, executive order on that, and we've seen nothing happen on any of those. And then of course there was take the guns first and then do due process, which is totally unconstitutional. And then the red flag laws, the bump stock bans. You know, it's why I did the video the other day, that there are some things that are expected of him by the universe. Okay. For lack of a better term, to try to bring everybody into the conversation. And he must act to stop this evil, and he's got to stop even the appearance of trying to go after our rights, because that's not fooling the enemy. Okay, it's just not. He needs to be steadfast, and otherwise this plague is going to get really, really bad. I mean, it's going to be bad anyway, but it'll get worse. Anyway, Liza Jean, I hope you understand. I agree with you. Spend a lot of time there on that. Yeah, I heard about Pelosi's son, Ezra Goddard. Thank you. Candace K, yeah, we will see. Paul Pelosi, there's so much going on. All I know is that he's obviously been in a situation very similar to Biden's son. So there's really no reason to get on. However, somebody did bring up Amber Geiger, I guess the other night, the police officer in Dallas that shot the black guy in his own apartment, thinking it was her apartment. And people asked what I thought about that. There are so many things wrong with that. Basically, I've been in situations like that, and I don't know what the person wanted to know about that, whether they thought that she was set up or whatever. From just the information I could gather, she wasn't trained very well. I don't know if she was intoxicated at the time to go on somebody else's apartment and not recognize it's not yours. Shoot first and ask questions later. That goes into the training aspect of it. Too many police officers now are taught that their safety is more important than the public's, and it's not supposed to be that way. The old use of force continuum talked about how to escalate force. Just because somebody's in your house, you shouldn't shoot him, especially if he's eating an ice cream cone. Ugh. I hated to see that happen to her, and the young black, the brother of the man who she killed, wanted to even forgive her and hugged her in the court. She's in for, I thought it was manslaughter, but then somebody else said no, it was murder. I'm not sure where that ended up, but she's going to prison. I think she was sentenced to 10 years. She won't serve that much time. But it's sad. I mean, she's going to miss part of her life, and of course she took somebody else's very unnecessarily. Totally wrong. How many times have police officers, even with warrants, have busted into the wrong house? Look at the baby that had the flash grenade go off in its crib and it burned it. I mean, the police are out of control, and of course that's another thing I've been upset about Trump about. The police can do no wrong. We love our police. Well, that's true. But I was one, and I have good friends that know that the police, who are police officers, who know that the police are out of control. Okay, it's just a fact. It's just a fact. Yeah, exactly, Marine Corps Sergeant, Staff Sergeant. I agree. You're not called Staff Sergeants in the Marine Corps, are you? I thought it was Gunny Sergeant. Anyway. Yeah, Barr should have taken Comey out. I mean, that was an opportunity to show that people are in trouble, and he let it go. And then there was this big argument, oh no, it would have been too hard to prove. What? I could have convicted him. Just it's crazy. Yeah, Gavin Newsom is, Liza Jean, yeah, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is related to Pelosi. I think he's her nephew or something like that. Okay. Yeah, a lot of crazy things going on in Iraq. We just destabilized the Middle East, and we took out, some places they just need to have dictators. That's the way they've operated for thousands of years. But we always say, oh, we're going to show them democracy, which is not what we have anywhere. We're not supposed to have it. We don't need to make the world America. we need to clean house here. We've got problems here. We don't need to listen to Bolton and all these other idiots who want to go out. And I realize having what they call forward forces is a good thing in case you have, citizen, Americans or American interests hurt somewhere. But this empire building and nation building and regime change, look what it's done, nothing for us. And who's to blame for that? A good portion of it's the blame to the IC, the intelligence community. Yeah, Candace, there is like you're saying to Liza Jean, the level of deception is, it's just mind-boggling. As a matter of fact, I finally accepted somebody tonight on DM so that they could, get on my regular line. And, I've had so much deception that I've had to deal with it. It's been mind-boggling. So I don't mean to treat anybody with any disrespect or anything. It's just that it's really bad out here. There are a lot of scams going on. I get calls on my phone for people who say, well, I got this message, and I don't know who they are. I got this message from you, and I need you to call me back because I need to know. That's a scam, and we know about it. These things are getting worse all the time, and a lot of it has to do with the invasion by the illegals. Okay, it has a lot to do with that. They're getting picked up by these little criminal organizations. Okay. Selling America off to the Chinese or anybody is treasonous. Okay. Please turn the volume up a little bit. Okay, I'm so sorry. I will do that, but I just don't want it to overmodulate. Okay, see how that is. All right, thank you for letting me know. I'll try not to. Okay. Yeah, trust sessions, the Truman Show, trust sessions. You got your crying emoji there. That's good. Mice in the ceiling. Mice in the ceiling. Oh, you're probably hearing things outside. Okay, no, there are no mice in the ceiling here. You might be saying something else. Yeah, I was having some studio problems. Yeah, of course. You know how that is with this crazy thing. Okay. All right, let me see if I can find some good. Any person looking out for the Americans? Yeah. Is a person looking out for Americans as Zahal if they promote 5G, red flag laws, and doing nothing about censorship? That's a problem I have. Exactly, Ahal. That's what I've been saying all this time. That's why I'm hoping that maybe Trump really has awakened. I hope so. He can't just go after the people, and that's why his tweets the other day were so important. He can't just go after the people that were after him. He has to realize that they were ultimately after us and after our constitutional republic, our Bill of Rights, and those things. And yes, his stand on the Second Amendment troubles me. His stand on the First Amendment, not defending it, troubles me. The Fourth Amendment troubles me. I've said that all along. I've said that from day one. It's been a problem for me. But at some point, we have to go with what we have. What else are we going to do at this point? We just have to be aware that if he does betray us, which he's come very close to if he hasn't actually already done that with the First Amendment and the Second, we just have to work with what we've got at this point and see where we are. And hopefully we can, make up the ground later. But yeah, you're right. It's a bad situation. No state is standing up against the federal government. Not really. No state. Nevada had an opportunity to during the Bundy Ranch thing. They saw what was going on. Governor Sandoval saw what was going on. They should have kicked the BLM out of there. Same with Oregon, but I knew Governor Brown wouldn't do that. I knew she wouldn't. She's really bad. She's far worse than Sandoval. And Sandoval's gone now in Nevada, but at any rate. Okay. Thoughts on a recession? No, man. Well, you guys like to hit me with that. I'm not a financial guy. I've said that before. I don't know what to think about that. There's obviously some problems with the economy. We're told how great it is, but as I said the other night or day, whenever it was, I travel a lot and I see what's going on. Okay, and it's not as bright and cheery as we're being told. That's my take. Are we better off than we were? Probably. Yeah, I think so. But I don't think it's as rosy as we're being told. The stock market really isn't a gauge of the economy. I hope you understand that. I'm not a financial guy, but I do know that. Okay, it's the mom and pop down the street. That's where you really see it. Okay, this butt is for you. You drink and find this planet, man. All right, well, good for you. Trump is more than aware of it all, Hazel L. says. Well, we'll see. He admitted the other night that he wasn't, Hazel, that from his own words. Did you see the tweet? I finally come to realize that it's not. Did you read that? You mean it's taken him almost 3 years to finally figure it out, and he's aware of it all? I'm not so sure. Read last. I don't know anything about that. I've heard of Goldberg before, but I don't know about the projects to the Zephyr project. I'm afraid I'm dumb on that. I don't know. I'll see what I can find out about it. Eliza Jean, I agree. Frankly, I'm getting sick of politics. These days just feel like the rubbernecking. Yeah, and I totally agree. A lot of people have just said, to hell with it. Trump should have fixed this thing. He's almost lost. At certain points, he's almost lost his base. Oh yeah, he's great at the rallies. And yeah, he pulls more than all the Democrats pulled together. But we're still talking about rallies, and I'm sick of rallies. That's not fixing things. That's not improving the situation at all. That's just making him feel good and keeping people pumped up with him. Yeah, while he doesn't support the First Amendment, while he puts up 5G, while he allows the vaccines, while he allows babies to be killed and their organs harvested, while we've got transgenders and pushing their agenda in the schools and in the libraries and in the government. I know. Dr. Hook, well, that's true. That which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. That's true. But, there's an old saying. Actually, it's in the Bible. It says, the one with the hoary head, he needs to be respected. The ancient, he is the head. And the prophet that telleth lies, he is the tail. So sometimes the evidence is an accumulation of experience. That's why you have generals on the battlefield who, by intuition, they don't have evidence of something. Patton was a prime example of this. He could feel the movements of the enemy. He could sense what was going on. He didn't have evidence for it. Hey, the battle's over there. Remember that? That was the Carthaginians. He thought he had been a Carthaginian general standing against the Romans. You remember that? Sometimes evidence is not something that you see or feel or touch. Sometimes, and it depends. It's usually has to be based on experience. A cop, for instance. I don't know how. When I was on the police department, I found more burglaries in progress than all the other departments in our area combined, because I just had a sense of it. And it wasn't that I responded to an alarm. I just had a sense of it. I had to have a couple of my buddies off of Murray on one night. We could all talk about it, but they're a little camera shy. Being on camera with Roy Potter, I don't know about that. A couple of them are still working as cops, so they probably wouldn't do it. But anyway. Yeah, I know. They're all still on every day. Tinfoil Hat, Clapper, Brennan, McCabe. I know. That's why I say, it's silly of it's silly of Trump to let them do that. Yeah, I realize that they're saying things that can be disproven, but they're also a source of contention and violence. Just as I pointed out, Philip Mudd here. They need to go away. They need to be collared, and it's past time. There's enough evidence. And we can stack on the charges again later once they're behind bars. It's frustrating, I know. Fox is down the tubes. Yeah, if you're talking about Fox News, yeah, I know that they've totally gone leftist. It's pretty bad. They've only got Tucker Carlson, Lou Dobbs, Judge Janine, Laura Ingraham, who she always seems like she's on alcohol or you know something, and of course Sean Hannity, and everybody else. I mean, there's some other all right ones, but yeah, it's a problem. Okay, yeah, the globus are connected at the hip, Liza Jean. That's true. Oh, that's nice, Conscious Johnson. So nice to see you lately. Very important to get this off your chest. Nancy Morgan Hart, who does headlines with a voice, and I quoted Gigi Sims here too. I've had contact with them, a couple times, personal contacts, not reading their tweets or whatever, but where we've actually communicated. And they were both upset that I wanted to hang it up in June. On my part, it wasn't just frustration. It was that sometimes you have to back away to get somebody's attention. You can keep hitting the donkey in the head with a 2x4, but if you keep doing it, eventually it's going to go unconscious. So that doesn't work all the time. Plus, I really needed to regroup, and I feel bad that I'm not using Pam Jones's introductions, those things that she did for me, for the Potter Expositor, because she did a lot of work and all that. But I just felt that, I needed to back off, and I wouldn't have come back, probably, because I wasn't really getting any. I try to operate, and I'm boring people now. I try to operate by the spiritual side, not just, because I like something or I dislike something. And when I first started all this, I felt a spiritual force saying, you really need to do this. You can't be silent. Silence is agreement. But really in June, I realized that what I had done up to that point was sufficient. It's sort of like, when Jesus said it's finished, it's enough, that you don't need to do anymore. But as I watched things, and I said even then when I stopped in June that, I'll do an occasional upload. And you've noticed I haven't done a scheduled show like I was doing for so long. I'm not doing that. And I probably won't ever again. We'll see. This nightcap might change, and I have some other ideas for this that I'd like to put into effect once I get a studio that I can depend upon for it, in a slightly different location. But anyway, yeah, the Republicans are calling for a vote on the impeachment, which is what they should do. Yeah, the Republicans should seize control of that. Pelosi's being real cagey about that. I think you understand the details, right? They don't want to go to, they don't want it to be an actual vote on the impeachment because they don't want the Republicans to be able to subpoena witnesses. Rhinos are enemies, absolutely. Roy, stop having false hope. Actions speak louder than words. No, hey, Hal, I agree. I'm not agreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think that Trump has had a oh shit moment. Okay, I detect that at this point. He was actually angry. It was good to see him physically angry, not just talking, but actually having emotion this time. I mean, real emotion, anger. I think something's changed. Yeah, Trump just tweets tinfoil hat, I know. There's never any actual justice. I've lost all hope for this country. It's getting worse, not better. Bongino is a clown. Well, Bongino even admits the republic is dying, if it's not already dead. It's being destroyed. He's actually said that. And I know what you're saying, though, because I do see where, he like they all do, they try to have an upbeat sense. And I don't. People say, Roy, you vacillate. Well, yeah, it's like I said the other day. I'm like a referee in a ball game. I might favor this team really, but I'm trying to call the plays legitimately. And that doesn't make people happy, because I'm not going to make them, feel good all the time, because I'm going to call it like I see it. And that's just the way I am. I've been that way. you know, like I said, in the Army, on my OERs more than once it would say this officer can be depended upon to speak his mind. And for some senior officers, they like that, and for other senior officers, they don't. So it depends upon who's reading the OER, whether or not they think that's a good thing or not. Trump in Dallas 1017 rally for his safety. Oh, okay. Well, isn't it interesting that Melania went to Wyoming today, my neck of the woods? She's up in Jackson. I wanted to go up there, but I figured they wouldn't let me anywhere near there, so I didn't go. But that's kind of my stomping ground. I go up there quite a bit. In the summer, it's really nice. In the winter, it's beautiful. Well, it's beautiful all the time. My favorite mountain in all of America is the Grand Teton. That's for sure. Okay. Yeah, I know. Daniel Pratt's talking about trying to get his shotgun out of Hawk from a pawn shop, and he's having to wait too long. I know the whole thing is trying to get slowed down. Well, deplorable, I'm glad you said that. I've got to repeat what deplorable says here. Trump isn't doing anything they'd assassinate him for. Tweeting is virtual. I've said several times, their opposition to Trump has been a game, and that he's come very close to doing what Hillary Clinton would have done anyway on a lot of things, with the exception of the economic stuff, with the exception of, the right to try, and I could name a lot of things, but, the tariffs on China, those types of things. He's done some really good stuff on, and of course, the problem is that you see things like Philip Mudd, and you see things like Clapper and Brennan, and how the leftist side of the Democratic Party, which is almost the entire party at this point, it's almost all communist socialist, stands against him, because he represents what we want to some degree, if not all of it. I'm hoping again that he's turned around, but you're kind of right. If they really wanted him gone, he'd probably be gone. But they realize what they're dealing with at this point. They haven't got our guns yet. Oh, they've got us by geospatial intelligence. Oh yeah, right after. Pardon me. I saw that happen, and I've seen them track me. Okay. People say, well, they don't need to do that anymore because they were verifying. You use on-the-ground people to verify the geospatial information. Okay? So, at any rate, they know they're still going to deal with a lot of people if they do this wrong. So, but Trump does have to act, and I'll just leave it at that. He has to act. He can't keep tweeting. He can't keep investigating. That's a procrastination. Investigate. We got to get more people on our side. No. Arrest somebody. Take them out now. I agree with you. Yeah, red flag laws and Hillary still walks free. Our Rose, I know. They always come after us. And you've already heard me talk about the Second Amendment, about guns, and the fact that the real answer is to stop prohibiting good Americans from having firearms. If the criminals and if all these bad people know that we're all armed, it's going to be a lot different country. Yeah, there might be some accidental shootings, but I'll bet you. Well, they've already proven that. John Lott proved that in his research, and Florida proved it when they went to concealed carry there. They haven't. I mean, yeah, every once in a while you have a discharge, an unplanned discharge. I forget the actual name of it, but yeah, but how many lives does it save in the end? But see, they're afraid to let the people have that. They don't want to give them that kind of freedom. And true, some people shouldn't have weapons. I agree. I agree. But the way to determine that isn't by blanketing and prohibiting everybody. That's absolutely, that's like cars. You know, they license you to drive a car, right? And so you're supposed to have a license to drive a car. Does that mean that somebody without a license can't drive a car and won't drive a car if they really want to? Of course not. Well, then they'll say, well, it's the availability of the guns. Are you kidding me? A black market in the gun market would explode. It's just government control. It's the same old thing all the time. Yeah, Liza Jean, you're right. Trump will probably never have Hillary indicted. Big mistake, though. Big mistake. She and Soros should be the first, in my opinion. And I realize how dangerous that is, but frankly, if I were in his position, I wouldn't give a rat's ass. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. People say, well, you just don't understand what he's up against up there. Are you kidding me? I've worked in that whole thing for a long time. I know what it's like. But sometimes you just, he needed to get a core group, and he never did that. Does he have it now with Barr and Durham? Well, 2 guys out of the whole DOJ? I don't know. Okay, we've been going for an hour. I'm going to jump down to the bottom. Sorry, I don't mean to skip everybody, but I just want to see Broken Arrow. Who's saying? Okay, let's skip a little too far. Leslie Otwell. I heard Barr is afraid of being Epstein. He said he had a heavy feeling when he joined the administration. The evil runs deep, and it seems when you follow the trails, everybody's in bed with it. Hey, well, he was one. Remember, he helped Horiyuchi get off of killing Randy Weaver's wife, Vicky, amongst other things. So, yeah, if he has turned to where he wants to fix things, he's an enemy. And what they said about Giuliani, what Philip Mudd said about Giuliani, if Barr's real, they're saying it about him. We'll find out. Yeah, Antifa should have already been called a terrorist organization. I agree. All the elements of the crime are there. They're there. They're all there. Okay. Yeah, I did. Freedom Fighter 57. Yeah, I did hear about the woman at AOC Town Hall who was calling about eating of babies, and they're not sure if that was a plant or what at this point. But the bottom line of that is that AOC said no. She didn't say no. AOC didn't speak up and say you're crazy. That could never happen. That's wrong. She didn't do that because they do want to do those things, and they're already talking about places. Using people as fertilizer, that's bad enough, but they're also talking about real Soylent Green these days. They really are. They have talked about it. Yeah, Liza Jean, I'm glad you said that. Trump has done a lot of good stuff that doesn't get reported. In my opinion, he really does love America. I think he does. But as I've said before, at the top levels of those elite circles, they're playing games that don't even occur to us. And I don't pretend to know that. I do know how the government operates. I know how they pull these things off and the internal fights and stuff that are going on. And right now that's worse than it's ever been, with the exception of maybe the Civil War itself in the 1860s. So we're in trouble. There's no doubt about it. Well, look, folks, it's been over an hour. It's almost an hour and 10 minutes. I'm going to thank you for putting up with me, and that I know that the video wasn't all that clear this time. I probably won't use a black background again, but once I had it up and I made the adjustments, it was too late for me to change back to anything. Like I said, I had to change my black shirt to a brown because my head was floating in the air. And I didn't want to do that. I could hear the deal on that. So I probably would get calls on my phone, saying, "Hey, what happened?" So anyway, thanks again. I'm not sure when we'll do this again, but I hope that it's been enjoyable for most of you. It looks like we've got about 300 to 400 people in here, and that's about what I figured I'd have the first night I did this, and it was a lot higher. But this one I just wanted to get up because I was concerned about Philip Mudd saying that assassination of Trump and of Giuliani now are on the table. He's not just speaking nonsense. He's sending a message. Trump better act. He better start grabbing people. You don't have to wait till you have everything all investigated and all charged. For instance, as a police officer, if you're investigating a suspect and you see, he's let's say he's you're investigating for a bank robbery, just as an example, and he's also dealing drugs, and you also know that he's what do they call those guys, a front, for stolen property, offense for stolen property. Well, he goes and he kills somebody. You don't wait until you put all those other things together, to where you're absolutely sure you're going to get a conviction. You go and nail him for that. Well, threatening to kill somebody like Mudd has, he needs to go. Threatening to do the things that Brennan and Clapper have threatened to do, they need to go. Comey, McCabe, yeah, there should be some arrests already. I agree. Okay, that's good enough for tonight. Thanks for coming, everybody. Like I said, I'm not sure when we'll do this again. I'm really hoping to change the format of this to something that's really kind of dynamic and kind of fun, but we'll see. I kind of the nightcap theme came to me. I was thinking, what should I call this? Nighttime? No, that's not any good. There's already something like that. So I went and I made myself a vodka and soda water, and I thought nightcap. So that's where that came from. All right, everybody, I hope you have a great night. Let's hope that some action starts to happen. These threats of violence are real. We could see some more shootings here real quick. Antifa's riled up. With Trump seemingly more aggressive and actually angry. That's a good thing, but it could also, trigger some of these bad folks to do some things. And certainly the IC throw in some false flags. So keep your situational awareness on high. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. All the normal things. And I guess I'll see you in a few days. If something big happens, I'll be back up, and it probably won't be a formal thing like this, but a short little maybe upload on my phone or whatever if that's necessary. Sorry, I am getting tired. All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you later.